So what you should focus on basically for studying and preparing. So I would do those two things. So the last thing we talked about of section 3. By the way, let me tell you that part of your mark for the final exam is based on your online lessons presence. So if you've not attended lessons, you will lose marks. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Let me go to the slides now. So yes, last thing we talked about was market research, I believe. We talked about primary market research methods. We stopped here. So primary market research quickly was, we collected the data ourselves, and the research was done for the purpose of the business, whatever problems, questions that they had. They done the research themselves. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of primary market research. We said it could be, the good things is that it's new, up to date. So we don't have the problems of the market changing. It's relevant to your problem and it's not available to your competitors, but it was costly and it was time consuming and we could be biased in the information that we obtained. Secondary market research, the benefits of which was that it was cheap. So why is it cheap? Well, when you look at the internet, when you go and read at the library to gain information, all these things don't necessarily cost a lot of money. And also it's quick because it's already done research and you can obtain them easily. But the problem was that they were not up to date and it was not relevant to your business entirely. So the information you obtain from market research, if they're not collected carefully, they could end up being misleading and biased and not of any use to your business. So what conclusion I can get from this is that for businesses to be more accurate in their collection of information in their market research, they usually combine primary and secondary market research together. And when they do primary market research, it's not only one method that they use a combination of these different techniques that we talked about. Depending on what? Well, it depends on how much time they have and also how much money they have. So it depends on their resources. But the more resources they spend, the more accurate their market research will be. So what can I do? Well, sometimes you could spend millions of dollars on market research, but the long-term benefits that you will get from having accurate information, accurate market research information, is that you will recover the cost of market research and more, and you will establish your business as a big player in the market. Okay, so we had a problem when it came to market research, and it was we could not include everybody in our research. Like imagine Coca-Cola having millions of customers. They can't, it's physically impossible to go and ask all those millions of people about what they think about the new Coke, let's say, this one. So what they have to do is to do sampling, which is basically selecting a group of people from amongst your audience, your customer base, and treat them as representative of the entire market. So those are the people that you would include in your research. So reason for sampling is common sense. It's obvious. Well, It would be very, very expensive and time consuming to include everybody. That's why we do sampling. Okay, so in your book, I already told you that you don't have to know the methods. So this picture over here, you don't have to know how each one works. This is a S and A level material, but it's still useful for you to know how sampling is done. Some businesses, they do it randomly. So what random sampling is that the first person I see, I would include in my research. Female, male, I don't care. Children, adults, I don't care. Black, white, I don't care. So there's no criteria for selecting these people. You just do it randomly. When it comes to systematic, though, there you abide by a system. For example, each second person that walks by, you would include in your research. Or let's say there's one dark blue, and there has to be one dark blue and equal dark blue and light blue people in your sample. So you abide by that. Let's say male and female. So 50-50. That's a systematic sampling. And you also have cluster sampling and stratified sampling. Stratified, basically every nth person in your group gets selected for in your sample. As I said, it doesn't matter which method you use, we have to do sampling. Okay, the accuracy of the research depends on how you collect the sample. So listen, in the exam, if I ask you, why did this business mess up even though they did market research? One possible reason for that, a possible answer for that would be maybe they're not very accurate in the way they did their sampling. Maybe they didn't have female in their samples, even though part of their customers are females, and so on. So sampling is very crucial for how accurate your research is. I could spend millions of dollars on all these primary market research methods, but because I did the sampling wrong, then all my research is wrong. So on this slide, I gave you the example of a business that failed in one endeavor because of the way they did their market research. Okay, so here's the story that you can read, the new Coke, a product that failed. But in general, we can say that when market research fell, or their accuracy depends on these: sampling, uh, the way the interviews are conducted, like the interviewer not being biased, providing the opportunity to your participants to ask questions if the questions are not clear, the way you phrase the questions. I don't know if you remember, but I gave the example of how embarrassing it is to ask people for their salary, how much money you make, just like this, straightforward. How much money do you make? Most people are embarrassed to answer questions like this. They become uncomfortable, especially when their salary is low, small. So they might end up lying about it. So if I rephrase it to, okay, I give you 4 options, and each is a range. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and like this. And I would ask you, what range would your salary fall in from amongst these ranges? And you just tick one. Then it's not too embarrassing anymore. Okay, so things like that. Make sure your interviews are not biased. Make sure there's chance for clarification. Make sure the language you use is clear, coherent, and not ambiguous at all. Make sure the data you collect is up to date and new and it's relevant. All these things make market research more accurate. And then lastly, I came to the presentation of data. I told you that the data you collect from market research, they're usually jumbled, mixed, raw. If you look at them, you wouldn't understand anything. So there are some people whose job is to convert or change those raw data into things like this that people can look at and understand easily. AKA managers. Managers use these data and graphs all the time. One, we called it bar graph. Another one, we called it pictogram, and then line graphs, and then tables. And I also have pie charts, which I did not include in this. Okay, the way they work and the way you use them to understand things is in your book. They also come with a bunch of disadvantages from each one that you have to understand. So then we talked about marketing mix, and I said marketing was about increasing profit and sales and brand image and market share and so on. But we couldn't be successful in our marketing if we made separate decisions about the product, price, place, and promotion. So when I say marketing mix, I mean these four things. Why are they four? Well, because it could be more, but it's slimmed down to four in your book. In some textbooks, it's more than four. But the idea is this. Well, when I make a decision, I cannot just focus on one aspect of my business. For example, product. A good example is this. If you want your business to uh, be known as a good quality business, and you do really make really good quality products, like we spend a lot of money improving our product, and it's the best product anybody could make, but your price is low, that's not a good marketing mix decision. It's not a good strategic decision because you ignore this aspect of it. Or your price is high, your quality is really good, but your store is in a crappy place that no one goes to except for homeless people, let's say. That would damage the image of your business, the image that you want to represent. So you include that mix element as well. My place is really good. My price is really high. My product is really good quality. But the promotions that I do, the advertisements that I do, they're really crappy. The TV channels that I choose are not even good. That would damage your reputation. So just imagine the worst TV channel or media station you can think of, and then imagine your favorite business's advertisement being shown by that channel, and see how you would look at or view that business anymore after that. So that's the idea of marketing mix. So for your business to be successful, you have to include all these things in one package for your decision. And you have that example that I just explained there. Okay, we come to the first element of marketing mix, which was product. Okay, most businesses are really successful because they develop new products. And that's a very important part. If you have that creativity and innovativeness in you uh, to create a new product, amazing, hooray, great. That's how you become really, really hyper successful. The problem is that for you to be able to develop a new product, you have to uh, have these things. Most crucially, money. You have to be really rich. For example, why? Why is developing a new product so expensive? Because market research is expensive. Because you have to invest money in a lot of machinery. Okay, there's a lot of risk involved because the products that you end up making might not be very successful. So Tesla is a really good example for this. NPD, they have billions of dollars worth of equipment and machinery, and all those machinery do is to create prototypes, not products that they can sell and be able to make profit out of. No, they use those machines to make things that might end up failing. So all the things that Elon Musk have decided to make all have come with huge risk. Uh, Especially his space uh, business, SpaceX. That business is very capital extensive. It's very, very costly. And there is a chance that they will never be able to send tourists to the moon or Mars, which is their ultimate mission. That's their service, by the way. They want to make it available to ordinary people who are rich enough to go to Mars on a tour. So that's NPD. Okay, and you know Last one says, if Elon Musk borrows money for that new business and it fails, well, how do you repay all the money that you borrowed? So the idea is that it's not only your business that could end up in ruin, you might end up in ruin as well as the entrepreneur who took the great risk. But there are benefits, obviously. One is, well, Tesla's Tesla. They have a huge competitive advantage over all the other businesses. They're market leaders. If all the endeavors that they're taking currently become successful in the future, nobody would be able to compete with them. No other business would be able to compete with them in those arenas. Okay? They would be able to survive. They would be able to stay competitive. They would be able to make a lot of money because they would charge premium price, and when they do, they would have a huge market. So their business will grow exponentially in the future, which means that they will have economies of scale in the future, which is unit cost of each product coming down because you make a lot of your product. Okay, so if millions and millions of people decide that they're going to go to Mars for a tour, then cost of the tours would come down because you have a lot of customers, because demand is so high. Something that other businesses might not be able to do. Okay? So what you basically did was to ensure that you have very long-term profit in your pocket, which is crucial. Something that Coca-Cola did back in the days. They took a lot of risk. The product was new, but once it was a hit, it became a hit, people knew it, then it's the major massive business that it is today. And what you also do is to spread risk, right? So Apple does this a lot. Listen, so anytime you make a new product and you're known for it, you're basically given the opportunity to make more products that are new. When you do that, then any of your products failing does not necessarily mean that your business will fail. You can continue. So Apple had iPod failing, the music streaming small devices that they used to make. That failed because of technological innovation, but that didn't mean the end of Apple. So that's what spreading risk means, because you have multiple different products at the same time. Even if one of those fail, you can still continue operating and making profits. So NPD has a huge risk, which takes us to our next slide, which is brand image, crucially linked to being able to make new products. So imagine Nike, Apple, and Samsung, and so on. Okay, what is brand image? Well, how do I recognize businesses? By their name and logo. Okay, how do I end up respecting BMW a lot? Why would so many people kill to drive the newest BMW? Well, because it's prestigious. It's respected by everybody. How did it become like this? Well, they started by making really good quality products. That's how. And they charge premium prices. And people like their designs and the quality of their products, right? So you end up recognizing their name and brand. What that does is that anytime BMW makes a new car, their sales would be crazily high and their profits would be crazily high because of that respect factor. So a lot of people only drive BMW because they're loyal, crucially important. Repeat purchase. Any car I drive has to be a BMW. Any car BMW makes new to the market, I have to have it. And you have millions of people like that around the world. Like you have a lot of rich people who are like this, which is, again, very comfortable long-term profit for BMW. Some people, you can choose other markets as well. Some people are crazy for products that come from Disney, Marvel, for example, and so on. Okay, last point is, again, important because when you launch a new product, then its sales would be high. So that's the benefit of brand image. Okay, so we should not, when we talk about product, we should not ignore packaging. Uh, why? Because it serves these benefits. One is that it protects the inside. It's the first thing that customers are exposed to, so they judge the quality of the inside based on the quality of the packaging. You can have all the information like expiry dates, name of the business, logo of the business on it so that it's easy for people to recognize. And overall, it serves in the marketing of the product, crucially. And some people use the packaging for reuse. And back then I told you it's a really good idea to have permanent label on your packaging if it's made of glass like this, because there is a chance that people will reuse them in their house for a long time. So if you have your name attached to these, you expose the name of your business to a lot of people for a long time. Anyway, so that's the purpose of packaging. Before we move on about the product, there's this life cycle that we talked about. Any product you take, regardless of what it is, comes through some stages of life: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Why was it important for us to know? Well, we could have responded to each stage. For example, if it's introduction, I could have a certain price, either low or high. If it's in growth and a lot of people are buying my product, I could start doing a lot of promotion at this point. Maturity, then I might change my promotion to advertisements to remind people of why my product is better than competitors, because in maturity, competition is really high. In decline, if I know my product is in decline, there's no point in me spending any money on promotions because people already know it and they've stopped buying it for a reason. So there's no point in doing promotion. So in a nutshell, knowing what each stage of of its life your product is in enables you to make proper decision to respond to it. Okay. So the type of advertisement, the price that you have, and the features that you include depend all on each stage. You had a table in your book that you have to go to understand this better. Okay, then we came to something else after the product. We came to the extension strategies, and we are still talking about PLC, by the way. When do we do extension strategy? When we hit maturity. What is it? We want to extend the stage, because maturity is when you have the highest sales and profit. So we want to stay in this stage for as long as possible. So how do we do it? Well, you can find a new market for your product. For example, PlayStation 3 in Africa. You can find a new geographical location like France in the Middle East and Africa and some Asian countries and so on. Number two, find a new use for the product. Big Balm is a hand cream that was used to be used for another purpose. Duct tape was used by the military to protect their ammunition from moisture, but now it's used for building. Okay, so that's an extension strategy. Everybody expected the duct tapes to be become obsolete after World War II, right? Because no military needed that after the war, and we didn't have any major wars after that. But the soldiers went back home and they started building houses for themselves, and they remembered the duct tapes. And there's like, okay, this broke in my house. I wish I was still in the military so that I can get my hands on the duct tapes. Well, some soldiers decided that they're going to make their business out of that. Make duct tapes for civilian purposes. They did, and they're still being used. That was a good extension strategy. Third, change the packaging. We have already talked about this. Guys, we have 10 minutes left from our 40-minute Zoom meeting. If it's disrupted, I'm going to send you a new link for a new meeting. So I want to get done. If I'm not done with these slides in 10 minutes, that is. Okay, so last one, increase promotions, right? The product is dying. How about you make more advertisements and promotions? This chart proves how successful and effective advertisement is in increasing businesses' sales. So those were the extension strategies. Then we came to price. Price, we said, is really important because there was a great link between price and quality. That's what this slide is talking about. And I said there are two main strategies when it comes to price. One was skimming, second was penetration. Skimming was when I had initial high price, then I reduced it with time and how many items I was able to sell. The reason I had to drop prices gradually was because the market became competitive after a while. Google glasses are a really good example. The current price is high. Why is it high? Because the product is new, unique, and also Google wanted to have a good quality image. But based on everyone's expectation, in the future, a lot of businesses will mimic and copy this idea. So competition will increase. You would have a lot of products similar to the Google glasses, which means that Google will have to drop their prices gradually with time. That's price skimming. It comes with a lot of advantages, which is you have a high profit. You have good quality image, and you ensure long-term sales, and you would be able to recover the investment cost. Then we had penetration pricing, which was the opposite. I had initial low prices that went up, increased, and usually used for a market that is really competitive. The Nokia phones were a really good example. And then you have a lot of advantages to penetration pricing, which is you create a good position for yourself in the market. You can increase market share, your fame, brand image. And if you do end up with loyal customers, you can increase your selling price. So if a lot of people end up liking Nokia more than Galaxy and Google and Apple, then you
Sorry, cut out.
Mr. Rawa, he left.
He left, bro.
وابوهم يعملوا فيها
باشا علي.
ما بعرفش قاعد اصلا.
Electricity to be funny, yo.
علي ناوتشيا
Now اشتوانيا.
شو اشتواني والله
ايه
يكون
دو
مكتبة.
حفتي ما
This an
confirm
actual
يعني
lesson or